Beth, it's really good to see you. And I've been looking forward to this conversation because I have followed you on social media for a while and always really appreciated what you post. But you've posted something recently that I think got a lot of attention.
This school district is saying that depending on a child's transgender identity, that they can pick which bathroom they want. So we have, right now at this school district, we have children self-identifying into different bathrooms just based off of their.
No, you cannot.
I have my bathing suit on. Excuse me, this is allowed.
We're going to recess.
I'm going to finish my comments, or you are violating my First Amendment right.
Your striptease has kind of taken the nation by storm. And so tell me a little bit more, how that came about, what you're intending to communicate, and kind of what the response has been.
Well, sure, Mark. So I've been speaking up at our school board meetings for close to 3 years now. I come usually once or twice a month, and I talk about how this gender ideology or this indoctrination of kids, starting in elementary school through the high school, is really impacting families. It impacted my family when my daughter in junior high school, along with many of her friends, took on these trans identities. And so I try to kind of showcase my feelings in different ways. And oftentimes I'll talk about, the medical implications of this. But I also talk about sometimes the sports issue. What does it mean when you have boys and girls sports? And then, of course, I talk about what does it mean when you have students identifying, self-IDing into the opposite sex locker room or bathroom at schools. And, the school board, they oftentimes aren't really even paying attention to what I'm saying, or they're looking, at their laptops. And so this was last month, and I thought I'd just try something different. And as I was preparing my comments, I thought, what about, instead of just talking about what it feels like to have a boy in the, girls' locker room, why don't I show them? And, I remembered that I had my kids, their hand-me-down clothing from when they were in junior high school. So I had the uniform top and the shorts, and this couple hours before the meeting, and I thought, well, if I wear a bathing suit, then I could just show them. I could undress, and then, what does it feel like to have boys watching a girl undress in a locker room? And so I just did that. I showed up to the school board meeting, dressed in my outfit, and then I told them what I was going to be doing. But I never expected them to actually, stop the meeting, recess it, and then, say I was being disruptive just for sharing, my concerns.
Yeah. First of all, I think that's brilliant. Brilliant. And it shocks me that was something that you came up with like 2 hours before the
Yes.
meeting. Because I think it's so clearly expressive. There's no doubt about what you were intending to communicate. I think that communication was received by the school board. I think that's why they reacted the way that they did. But just brilliant. And correct me if I'm wrong, other parents across the country are now doing this too, right?
That's right. I was actually really surprised, or pleased, a couple weeks afterwards. Nick Blanchard is his name. He's in Maine. And, they've also been impacted by this gender ideology in the schools, and similar to California, they have a lot of majority Democrats. And so he was also trying to make the point, and he had several other parents with him, including two women who did a similar, undressing and saying, what does this feel like? And, that was really exciting to see.
Yeah. It's like these members of the school board, they have no problem virtue signaling when it doesn't impact them, right? Or it doesn't impact their kids.
Right.
We represented a lady up in Washington State recently. We recently won this case, but it's this issue of access to shared facilities like locker rooms where men are able to intrude upon privacy for women. It's not just in the school districts, right? Like it's really in so many growing facets of society. Julie Jaman was going to the YMCA and changing clothes in the locker room before swimming and after swimming, only to find a man in a woman's bathing suit in that facility. which was a big surprise to her. And I think it's still a big
Yes.
surprise to so many people. So I love that this form of activism, like you've demonstrated that you can communicate beyond words, right?
Right.
So that it's felt with an emotion, but you haven't crossed the line, right? There's
Right.
nothing that's being shown that wouldn't otherwise, if you go to the beach or the pool, it's totally, I think, within the realm of what is socially acceptable, but it makes them so uncomfortable. So I
Right.
just think it's brilliant. It's just a
Thank you.
brilliant thing to do. And I hope other parents across the country will stand up courageously. I mean, I even saw publications on social media from like the UK and Europe reporting on this as well. I mean, it's really had a global impact. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about why you advocate and really, you mentioned it a moment ago, having a child that's been impacted by this.
Right.
As a parent, we get so many calls from parents whose kids have been impacted, and they're looking for, like, what do I do next? And we're lawyers. So many of these solutions are not legal, right? It's not. You don't fix it by filing a lawsuit necessarily. In some cases, yes, you can, but that doesn't necessarily fix the injury that
Right.
has been suffered by individuals, by kids, by families. So we have a lot of parents reaching out who have been impacted. What would you say to those parents whose kids have been impacted by this ideology as well?
Probably the number one thing I would say is just, trust your gut. You know, that feeling, that's the feeling I had when my daughter, she was only 13 at the time when she came out with this trans identity. And, her pediatrician here at Kaiser Permanente here in Davis, her pediatrician immediately, at the first visit suggested she go on to the gender clinic in Oakland. um, and her school counselors and teachers were celebrating this identity. Um, friends were telling me that I was hateful or bigoted for, questioning what I was starting to learn about, what's happening in our California women's prisons or what's happening in sports around, Riley Gaines and Leah Thomas at the time. So I guess my advice for parents is, there's your child, and I knew my daughter would always be my daughter, and so I just thought, I don't have to worry about what people think about me in this town, and I don't worry about losing friends, because what's most important is that my daughter can stay healthy and whole and grow up to be a healthy whole adult. And so just really um, just trust yourself and believe in yourself that you have your child's best interests in mind, and ignore anybody who's saying that it's wrong to want to protect your child and protect their health.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, we as parents are our kids' best advocate.
Yeah.
Whether you're dropping them off at daycare for the first time, or whether you're having a situation like this, it strikes me that your your daughter was being uh, referred to the Oakland clinic for Kaiser, right?
Hmm.
This is the same clinic that mutilated Chloe Cole. It's the same clinic that mutilated Layla Jane.
Hmm.
These are two young, courageous women who have filed lawsuits. Obviously, Layla's, because of procedural issues, didn't turn out the way we had hoped. Chloe's is still proceeding. In fact, earlier this month, Kaiser lost yet again a procedural motion at the Court of Appeals. Um, there's a lot of momentum in our favor, right? Protecting young girls. And I say young girls because it's when you look at the stats at that clinic specifically, it's overwhelming. It's like 3/4 of the kids that are being treated there are receiving double mastectomies. Like those are
Yeah.
girls who are receiving that type of procedure,
Right.
and they're getting it young.
Right.
Um, and I even saw an article recently talking about the overlap between autism and these
Hmm.
predators coming in saying that these kids who are dealing with autism are actually trans, and it's become just
Right.
a horrendous thing. But parents should be optimistic, right? And I think
Hmm.
we're making a lot of progress correct me if I'm wrong, but we're seeing these clinics shutting down or pausing across the country, right?
That's right. Yep. Here in California, we've had the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles has stopped anything for minors, and same with Stanford University, and also Kaiser Permanente surgeries under 19. So I'm hopeful.
Well, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of reason to be hopeful. Every day that these
Yes.
facilities are shut down, these butcher shops are shut down, it saves a
Yes.
kid's life for another day. You are a champion for this issue at school board meetings and on social media and in different venues across the country. Beth, I'm so grateful for your advocacy, for your courage. Thank you so much. And it's just a blessing to talk with you today.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate all of that. Thanks, Mark.